Members, this is session number 10, and I would like to welcome the Director of Administration and also the Commissioner, ICAC, and also our Secretary General and the Ombudsman. So members can now ask questions. Please press the request to speak button if you want to ask questions. So in the first round, each member will have 4 minutes, including replies. Mr. Tanka Pugh. Yes, Chairman. I want to ask our LegCo Commission this question. Last year, there was a discussion on the operating expenses of LegCo members, and it was suggested last year that a sum be set aside for the payment of gratuity to the assistance of LegCo members. So this is in fact to deal with the problem of the MPF offsetting arrangements. And I understand that this year the sum is only part of the lump sum amount. So as there is a lot of discussion in the community concerning the offsetting arrangements in relation to MPF, will you consider setting aside a sum of money for the payment of gratuity to the assistance of LegCo members upon the expiry of their contracts? Yes, Mr. Tang. Thank you. As you've pointed out, we have this mechanism. In fact, under the House Committee, there is a subcommittee to study matters relating to the reimbursement of operating expenses for members. And I understand that Ms. Emily Lau is the chairman of the subcommittee. But then there is an independent commission which makes recommendations, and this independent commission is outside the LegCo Secretariat. Perhaps I can ask our accountant to give members more details. Upon members' request, we will study the matter, but then we don't have the say. So have you studied the matter? Have you prepared some recommendations for Ms. Emily Lau's subcommittee or for the independent commission? Yes, perhaps our accountant can supplement. Mr. Kwong, please. Yes, Chairman. Now concerning reimbursement for the operating expenses of members, a sum can be set aside for the payment of gratuity, and there is no need for bills to be submitted. But then concerning the offsetting arrangement, we follow the government's practice. And so concerning severance pay to be paid, we follow the government's practice. In other words, offsetting is required. But then we are following up the matter with the administration. Chairman, in fact, the sum is in the same pool, so to speak. Now, for example, I have a ward office in Mongkok, and I think there should be a sum set aside for the payment of gratuity, or there should be a sum set aside for the offsetting purpose. So will you consider this suggestion? Yes, we will. Go to the subcommittee on the matter, and then of course we'll also bring the matter to the independent commission. CSO 030, Chairman, concerning the destruction of records. In fact, Ms. Emily Lau also asked a similar question yesterday. So you can see that a lot of inactive records were destroyed and they were presented in linear meters. So I want to know whether you've kept soft copies of these records. And how can the public give comments as to whether such records should be destroyed or should have been destroyed or not? Director of Administration. Now, normally speaking, we follow the international practice in deciding whether certain records should be destroyed. We study whether the records reflect the government's functions, whether society, organizations, or individuals would be affected, and so on and so forth. So we go through screening. And when we discover that there is no historical value, then we'll give approval for the files to be destroyed. But most of the files destroyed are personnel files, recruitment, venue management, or day-to-day financial management matters. Now, sometimes whether the historical records are useful depends on a development in society. So I asked whether there are backup copies. Now, because I believe these records were merely hard copies. So have you made backup soft copies? Do you first make sure that there are electronic backup copies before you destroy the files? And then can the public have access to such backup or electronic records? Thank you, Mr. Sin. Now, archives officers decide whether certain records should be destroyed or not. In some cases, the records can be destroyed, but then microfilm copies are made prior to destruction. So it's for the archives officers and the departments concerned to iron out the arrangements. And also, you can see from our replies to LegCo members that we are very transparent concerning the destruction of archives or records. But then microfilms may get moldy, so to speak. So do you prepare electronic soft copies? Are the backup copies, electronic copies? So do you have arrangements more advanced than providing or producing microfilms? Chairman, at the moment we still rely on the microfilming technology, but then when we develop on a comprehensive scale the electronic file management system, then for historical records they will be the backup copies will be in electronic form. As you know, many of the microfilm copies have been digitized, so we shouldn't be still using such technologies. I hope that Mr. Sin will understand that even if we have comprehensive electronic information management systems, information which is no longer required will still be destroyed, so we'll only keep information that has a historical value. Mr. Wong Kwok Heng. Yes, Chairman, I've got a question in relation to the ICAC. Now, 2014 marks this year we mark the 40th anniversary of the establishment of the ICAC. So concerning combating corruption and handling prosecution, some have said that the ICAC has not been very effective in its enforcement and prosecution work, and for some of the cases, investigation has gone on for a very long time. So can the Commissioner take the opportunity to tell us about the ICAC's efficiency in carrying out enforcement and prosecution action? And are you suffering from a shortage of manpower resources? And is this problem affecting your efficiency? And then concerning building management complaints, in particular bid rigging, this has been a very serious problem. I want to know whether the ICAC can deal with these cases effectively. Now, some say that bid rigging is not illegal. Is that really the case? My understanding that it is illegal to commit bid rigging. So I want to know whether you step up your enforcement action and whether our laws need to be amended so as to enable us to better tackle the problem. Yes, Commissioner. Yes, thank you. I'll try to answer the first question. Enforcement and prosecution. Now, we'll not comment on individual cases, but I want to clarify the enforcement functions of the ICAC. Now, basically, ICAC is an enforcement agency. The operations department is responsible for carrying out investigations, and prosecution is the work of the DOJ. So it's not for the ICAC to decide how speedy prosecution action can be. And then I understand that there have been comments made concerning the process of investigation and the pace of investigation. I want to say that we in the operations department abide by one principle, and that is we, in accordance with the law, investigate each case fairly and impartially. We investigate each and every case without fear or favor. We adopt a professional approach. But then I want to point out that for all cases investigated by the ICAC, in particular cases that are of great public concern, now ICAC has got this system whereby we report the progress of investigation to an independent advisory committee. This advisory committee is independent of the ICAC, and it holds a meeting every 6 weeks. So in other words, for these major cases, we need to report the progress of investigation to this advisory committee every 6 weeks. Next, concerning bid rigging, I don't think you have time to answer this question. So perhaps we can wait for the next round. Dr. Kenneth Chan. I want to follow up on CEO 002. CEO 002. Now, in the estimates, how much money has been set aside for our executive council members? And we are told that for the convener, it's 1.34 million, and then non-official EXCO members 840,000. So these are the honoraria rates. And then my second question relates to the attendance rates, and it is surprising that the reply is that no statistics have been compiled. How come the minutes do record who are present and who are not present? So I think it's a dereliction of duty if the attendance of members is not recorded. And if you have the information but is unwilling to give us the information, then I really have to ask why. This morning, I asked questions about the attendance rates of town planning board members, and I think such information should be made available to the public. Why is it that the administration is unwilling to provide such information to us? Is it that there are some LegCo members who rarely attend meetings, who make little contributions, but they are still in the LegCo, they're still appointed, and as a result, you do not want to disclose the information to us? Who can answer this question? Ms. Lau? Yes, Chairman. Thank you. In fact, similar questions have been raised by members in the LegCo sittings, and we have provided replies.
The reason why we do not compile statistics on the attendance rates of members of LegCo is because, of course, on the one hand, we have detailed minutes of LegCo meetings, and also in respect of individual items, which members participated in the discussion. But since LegCo is also adopting a very stringent declaration of interest system, therefore, at an individual meeting, there might be cases that the members who did attend would not participate in the discussion of individual agenda items. Let's say on a particular agenda, that was the only item for discussion, and the member would originally have attended the meeting, but because of the declaration of interest and the avoidance of conflict of interest, the member would simply excuse himself or herself. So because of this reason, if we tell members how many meetings were convened in a particular year and how many members did attend those meetings, that would not be an accurate. Ms. Lau, please. I think the LegCo should learn from LegCo. We have a declaration of interest system. We have a avoidance of conflict of interest system, but we also have attendance statistics. This is just an excuse. This is nonsense. You have been talking about such nonsense for many, many years. Are you going to review this system? This is a simple matter of the public's right to know. Are you going to review this system? Chairman, we have heard members' comments. We understand the members' wishes. We will see what we can do in the future to improve the system. Mr. Factor Fong, I want to ask about CSO 012 and the CEO 012. CSO 012 is about providing funds to some organizations to carry out some studies. Guangdong University of Foreign Studies, one case, and then 3 cases for CUHK. And then there are 4 cases involving commissioning the One Country, Two Systems Research Institute. The past chairman was Mr. C.Y. Leung, Mr. Sao Shan-bo, Siu Sin-bo was the head, and now Mr. Siu is the head of CPU, and is headed by Mr. Zhang Qiguang. For 4 studies in a row, they were all about sensitive political issues. For example, media coverage, media issues of political issues. According to Mr. Siu Sin-bo, the government is not going to hold punches about such issues. So is this about keeping a bunch of so-called bouncers to attack opponents? Has the head of the CPU, Mr. Siu Sin-bo, declared his interest? Why has so much money been provided to these organizations for sensitive issues? Another one is CEO 012. I asked about the leave taking of Mr. C.Y. Leung. In the Tung era, 8 days of leave were taken. For Donald Zhang, 12 days. And on average, 15 days annually. In the case of Mr. C.Y. Leung, Mr. C.Y. Leung to make 21 visits, 19 times to mainland and then also to the U.S. and he was not in Hong Kong 30% of the time. Why? Is that about saving his popularity ratings? If we look at it from the perspective of cost effectiveness, how can you say he deserves such a high pay? The speaker's not coming through. For the first question, I'll ask my colleague from CPU to respond. Mr. Nip, yes, the CPU, in respect of outsourcing work, including research work, and the commissioning of other organizations in doing such work, would comply with the purchasing rules and regulations in the government strictly, and that is in terms of tender assessment and other processes, we would follow the system. As regards the one country, two systems research institute, we have one additional internal guideline. Any tender or proposal from the institute will only be considered if there is competition, so as not to let the public have this wrong impression that although we follow all the regulations, we have this additional guideline for the institute. As for the head of CPU, how the head of CPU was involved or not involved, or did he declare his interest? In the tender assessment team, it was formed by our colleagues without involving the head of CPU. Thank you. The second question about leave taking. Any regulation about that? Yes. The CE's leave taking is subject to some rules. For example, 22 days per year. Of course, over the year, CE did not take what he was entitled to. As for the duration and the frequency, it depends on the actual need. Over the years, roughly speaking, there's a difference. There's a range from 9 times to 15 times per year. Ms. Emily Lau, my question is about ICAC. I have a question for Mr. Wong, the Commissioner, because Mr. Simon Peck is in Europe. I've asked this on a number of occasions as regards why it has taken so long time to investigate into the cases involving Mr. Donald Tsang and Mr. Timothy Tong. I recently wrote to Commissioner Simon Pei in respect of Mr. Timothy Tong's case. Mr. Pei said he would like to be the head of the team investigating into the case, and we also want to look into the involvement of Mr. Mok. On the 7th of February, it said by Ms. Pei in a news program that colleagues might offer advice and opinion to the Commissioner, but whether the Commissioner would take them or not is another matter. And sometimes if the Commissioner did not accept the advice, colleagues might have to proceed as agreed. And it's also said by Mr. Pei on another, or Mr. Mu, but on another occasion on the 9th of February, that in terms of entertainment and other matters regarding giving and so on and so forth, it would be decided by the Commissioner in most of the cases. As the case was still being investigated, how could Ms. Mok say something like this? And is this the practice that someone can come out and say that some people are forced to do something? So are you saying that if ICAC officers are coerced into doing something illegal, they would just obey the order? Mr. Wong, Commissioner, for ICAC. As regards the questions raised in the letter of Ms. Emily Lau to Mr. Pei, the Commissioner, I understand that Mr. Pei has replied to Ms. Emily Lau. As for the cases you have referred to, the investigation is still ongoing. Over the years, ICAC has been conducting investigations of different cases. And as I've said, the principles are the same. We will not depart from the same principles. And that is anyone who is in charge of an investigation will not, before the conclusion of the investigation, make any speculation or comment that might affect the impartiality of the investigation process. I think Ms. Lau understands this is a special arrangement. On that day, the ICAC make a statement saying that as there's a special team headed by the Commissioner, and that is to say the Directorate officers of the Operations Department will not be involved. And the team members are experienced investigators of ICAC, and the team was headed by Mr. Pei, the Commissioner. I asked a question about whether Ms. Pei's remarks are appropriate. I think in the reply letter, Mr. Pei has already set out his response. If you want me to refer to his response, I would say that Ms. Pei has stated that his comments were general comments and not in relation to any case under investigation. Mr. Ma Fengguo, I want to follow up CS 0025 or CSO 025. It's about government records. It said that some archives and historical records will be purchased from the UK. What are these records? Are they the declassified records that are related to the colonial government in those days? Are there any duplications with those held by our tertiary institutions? So apart from purchasing such records from the UK, what about other jurisdictions such as the USA and the mainland? Have you purchased records from those places as well? Young people are now very interested in local history and local affairs. What measures have been taken to encourage these people to use the government records service to conduct research? Ms. Choi, thank you, Mr. Ma, for your question. First, we haven't actually purchased such records. Last year, we carried out a study and we went to the UK to contact their people. So we have a list of records that we would like to purchase. I don't have a detailed list with me. I can provide more information after the meeting, a list to Mr. Ma on the records that we have in mind that we would like to purchase. There was a detailed study, so I believe we are going to duplicate anything held by our tertiary institutions. At this stage, we do not rule out the possibility of buying from the other jurisdictions historical records related to Hong Kong. But in the past few years, our focus was on the UK because of the past close history, and they have also changed the classification period from 30 years to 20 years under the National Archives of UK, and some of the records will be related to the reunification of Hong Kong and the mainland and the Joint Declaration. What about young people's access? Well, in B, we have a big table there. We have a rich collection of records and archives. We encourage visits, and we also go to schools. We conduct education of workshops to encourage teachers and students to make use of the government records to conduct research and carry out liberal studies related activities. Mr. Ho, I want to follow up a question raised by Mr. James Toh. Is ICAC reply number 010, and it's about the anti-corruption publicity within the ICAC, and that it has to do with the culture of anti-corruption within the ICAC.
And understand that there is an L group, and may I refer to para 3 of the reply. And I read from that paragraph: all corruption allegations and the outcome of investigation should be reported to the Department of Justice and the Operations Review Committee. Now, when Mr. Timothy Tong was the commissioner, did anyone complain about his acts or behavior? So, is it that L Group is only concerned about accepting benefits, accepting money from outside? I'm talking about such corrupt acts or practices. So people were forced to join him in the beer drinking competitions, karaoke competitions, and so on and so forth. People felt angry, but they dare not complain. So, and in para 2, you said that money was spent on training the staff, and then no complaints. Is it that no complaints have been received by L Group on Mr. Timothy Tong's acts? Mr. Wong, Commissioner, Chairman. Now, complaints to L Group, be they from within the ICAC or from outside the ICAC, have to be kept confidential. We do have established procedures to handle such complaints. Ms. Ho asked whether there were mechanisms within the ICAC to prevent and identify at an early stage corrupt practices or undesirable practices. Now, we have this established mechanism. Now, if a staff member of the ICAC feels that his colleague, his superior, or his subordinate has some unacceptable behavior, then he can complain to his superior. And if L Group receives a complaint, L Group will take follow-up action. Concerning Mr. Tong's case, in criminal investigations are still going on. But then ICAC is now reviewing the existing mechanism. We want to look at how we can identify at an early stage such unacceptable behavior. In fact, we've stepped up communication with our staff. Now, we have impressed upon them that irregularities would be dealt with by the Commissioner, irrespective of the ranks of those who have committed such irregularities. Mr. Chan Chi-chun, CEO 005. So you can see that there was an increase of $3.315 million concerning remuneration for special appointments. And then there are 6 officers stated in the reply. Has there been any increase in the number of such officers under special appointment? And then the IC and the SSA, we are of the view that the pay is really on the high side. The remuneration levels are on the high side, and in particular the SSA 2.99 million, including end of contract gratuity. Can I ask what duties this SSA performs? Why is it that such a high level of remuneration is paid to the SSA? And then how long does one contract last? Well, because we understand that this person has been in this position since 1997, and in fact last year in the budget debate there was an amendment proposed to the appropriation bill to slash the pay of this post. In fact, at that time it was said that many people didn't know who this SSA was, but then it was pointed out that the SSA was responsible for monitoring the acts of this CE, and this person could have direct access to the central authorities and so on and so forth. So perhaps you can tell us more about this person. Yes, Chairman, now concerning the number of special appointees, whether there has been an increase, this is CEO 005. I want to say that in the past, the number of posts did not increase, but then we filled the SA vacancy only last year. So we consider the number of posts has remained unchanged, but the number of appointees has increased. And then end of contract gratuities. Special appointees do enjoy end of contract gratuity. For example, SSA and also SPACE. These contracts last for 2.5 years. In other words, the current contracts will expire at the end of 2014. So at the end of 2014, we need to pay end of contract gratuity to these 2 appointees. And so the expenditure is higher in this financial year than in other financial years because of the need to pay end of contract gratuities. And then the member would like to know what work the SSA does. Now the SSA deals with mainland related matters and affairs. SSA gives advice to the SSA helps the CE liaise with the Central People's Government and coordinates the CE's visits to the mainland. And the SSA also liaises with business groups, district organizations. The SSAs prepares information, speeches, and so on and so forth for the CE. You don't want to respond to reports about his work. I've already reported to members the main duties of this colleague. Mr. Paul Chair, I want to follow up on CEO 030. The IC earns $2.61 million a year. But then it is said that this current IC writes articles in local newspapers under different under certain pen names. And it is said that if he contributes articles to newspapers and is paid, he needs to make a declaration beforehand. So it seems that you adopt a passive approach on such matters. What if he hasn't made any disclosure. Why haven't you at least asked him whether he has done such things? Why is it that you are simply saying that you have no information? Why haven't you just asked him as to whether he has written articles under different pen names in local newspapers? Ms. Lau. Now I think, as Mr. Chair is aware, similar questions have been raised by members at LegCo sittings. Now, in the reply, we need to tell members what the existing mechanisms and arrangements are, and I will not repeat the content of my reply in order to save time. And then the member says that we are totally passive. Now, concerning civil servants or contract staff, it's first and foremost the contract staff's or civil servants' responsibility to make sure that they do not violate the terms of employment. Of course, if they are found to have violated the terms of employment, then we can take action, we can discipline those concerned. And in fact, as we've stated in our reply, we do not have any information on the publication of articles by the IC using pen names. And we haven't received any application for undertaking paid outside work from the incumbent IC. So we don't know whether he is really the central guy or the Admiralty guy. But then have you asked him whether he has done such a thing? I think you should have given him a phone call. Now, because civil servants need to apply before they take up paid outside work, and also maybe it's not appropriate for him to do so because of the political sensitivity. I want to say that in fact investigation has been carried out. Members can refer to our reply. But no, you only said you do not have information. Can you tell us how the investigation has been done by you? Chairman, we will not in an open meeting discuss individual cases, but I want to say all the necessary information is included in our written reply. If the member wants the details, then I want to say that there has been written communication between us and him. So is it that she will give me the answer only if we use the LegCo P&P ordinance? Now, but according to the officer, investigation has been carried out. Mr. Chair, AUD 002 and 004. Chairman, I believe many members of the public do support the work of the Audit Commission. Chairman, the Audit Commission can help us make sure that public funds are used appropriately. So may I refer to AUD 002? Now, the estimates have been increased. The amount has been increased. But it seems that the scope of work has remained pretty much the same. And then may I also refer to AUD 004? So complaints have been received from 92 bureaus, departments, or organizations. I want to know whether all the 92 will be looked at by the Audit Commission. And I understand that, in fact, a lot of the funding of NGOs or organizations come from the government. So do you also audit these organizations? Yes, thank you, Chairman. I think that the Audit Commission's work is threefold. First of all, we carry out financial auditing. And then second, we carry out value for money studies. Third, we assist the PAC in its work. In the past few years, the scale of government accounts grew very substantially. In 2008-09, the expenditure was about 320 billion. But then in the last financial year, it was about 420 billion. So you can see that the scale has grown rather substantially. And so with the approval of LegCo, we hope to increase our manpower resources for carrying out financial auditing. And then value for money studies. Every year, we issue about 18 reports.
And we have to make a balance between quality and quantity. And PAC members will understand this. Although in terms of the number of reports, there's been no increase, but in every report, the depth and the coverage are much bigger than before. So in terms of quantity, there's also been an increase. I asked whether the 92 organizations concerned are all covered in your purview. Do they all come under your purview? Some, yes, but not all. Some are not covered by our purview according to the statute. But if the money is from the government, then so they would be subject to no checks and balances. Well, actually, there would be discussion in scrutinizing the law on whether the organizations to be set up should be subject to audit commission's monitoring. I want to talk about ICAC 18. I'm the one who raised this question. I want to talk about voters' registration. The ICAC commissioners reply, in particular, paragraph 2 refers to the so-called vote rigging in public elections. If there is vote rigging, then it adversely affects the fairness of elections. And it will have a very negative implication for the election results. It said that you have a number of publicity activities to publicize that vote rigging is an offense. In the past, such cases as those who have moved to another place were regarded as cases of vote rigging. The voters were very much alarmed by this. Oh, yes, after they moved to live in another address, they should declare the change. So we should do something to make sure that they can exercise their right to vote as a civil right more extensively. Would there be any publicity on this for voters? Commissioner, thank you. We need to have clean elections in Hong Kong. That's important to Hong Kong. In the past, we heard about allegations of vote rigging, and there have been successful prosecutions. We want to bring out this important message and the operations department and the PR and community relations divisions we need to do more to ensure, to encourage people to exercise their right to vote, and there will not be any misunderstanding caused by the moving homes, and they will not be caught in troubles and inadvertently. After we have handled these cases, we have talked to our people in the corruption prevention department, and we have also talked to the REO and also our community relations department on how to avoid similar problems from recurring. That we can remind voters of the right thing to do, and as a result, they can vote with peace of mind, and they will not be involved in criminal offense without knowing it. Can there be some advisory service for voters so that they can get the right message and their worries can be alleviated, can be allayed? Well, our corruption prevention colleagues would provide the necessary service before the next round of elections. For the next round, every member has 3 minutes. The first one to go is Mr. Sin Chung Kai. Mr. Millie Lau asked a question about bid rigging. I would like to get an answer from the Commissioner. This is my feeling. Maybe the Commissioner can tell us the statistics. That is to say, in cases involving complaints against corruption of building maintenance bid rigging, has there been an increase in the number of complaints received? You mentioned the community relations department and the crime and the corruption prevention departments. Would there be special tasks to be carried out by these departments on public education and on corruption prevention awareness? Have you been doing your part in combating possible offences related to the bid rigging in terms of the number of reported cases related to building maintenance cases? The number has actually dropped last year. But such complaints, such reports account for 40% of reports related to the private sector. No doubt this is a matter of concern. Such cases of building maintenance are a matter of concern to the public, and the ICAC must enforce the law and also conduct corruption prevention activities to combat this. We have a team. More than 40 members are in the team, specialized in investigation into complaints about building maintenance cases. If need be, we can deploy more investigation resources, or we can adopt a more proactive approach. For example, we may make use of informers or undercover operations to carry out investigation. As for corruption prevention and public education, the two departments in the ICAC are, of course, working hard to remind owners and tenants of buildings that in the participation in building management and building maintenance, they should assume certain roles. People in Hong Kong are busy. Very often owners cannot be personally involved in building management and maintenance. As a result, a few people could make use of the loophole, and they get involved in bid rigging. Mr. Gary Fang. I want to talk about CEO 010. And in the year, this CE visited the mainland 11 times. It's about internal diplomacy, so to speak. I want to ask how many visits were sponsored, and for what purpose, and who are the sponsors, or who are the sponsoring organizations? Ms. Lau? Chairman, thank you for your question. Mr. Fan, as for the visits outside Hong Kong, we have got a big table in the reply. The member is concerned about visits to the mainland and whether some of them were sponsors. The answer is yes. If you look at the expenditure, the expenses involved, we would upload the information in the CE's website on a quarterly basis. I don't have the information with me now. If the member agrees, I can provide the information on the 11 visits to the mainland in the past year in writing. Mainly, the sponsorship would involve the reception on the mainland. For example, the CPG or the provincial government would pay for the CE's hotel accommodation during the visit. In some cases, it might involve some traveling arrangements within the destination. Please supplement in writing. Next, for the first round, and Mr. Dennis Kwok in the first round. All right, he's not with us now. So let's go back to Dr. Kenneth Chan in the second round. I want to talk about the CPU's research projects. According to the deputy head of CPU, there's a mechanism for assessing projects, and that is to say the one country, two systems research institute may involve in some projects which is headed by Mr. Xiu Xinbo and Mr. Cheung Chi-Kong. Is it the case that such studies cannot be made public? That is to say, the study into public sentiments and media coverage cannot be disclosed? Well, we adhere to this principle. If publishing the report will not affect our day-to-day research work or to hinder the frank discussion within the unit, we would publish the report. In the past few years, we actually announced a lot of the findings and outcomes of our research by uploading them to our website. In respect of CSO 012, a number of research projects were referred to by Mr. KK Fong. We are still reviewing these projects. If appropriate, we'll upload the information to our website. Recently, Mr. Xiu Xinbo and Mr. Cheung Chi-Kong repeatedly attacked the public opinion program run by Dr. Robert Chung. Well, this is a typical case of double standard. They are hiding their reports, but they are attacking other people for doing something wrong. So how can you tolerate these people doing things in secret, and they are asking foolish questions of other people who are doing their job openly? Since we have incurred such expenses, and what about these studies on media coverage, public opinion? What's so secret about them? Ms. Lip. Well, our studies are mainly for internal reference purposes. One of the main functions of a CPU is to apply a multiple perspective and be forward-looking in looking into issues in Hong Kong, the mainland, and the world, so as to inform us of the future development direction. And if the contents can be made public, we'll consider this. When? I mean, which month in this month would how much time do you need? Which month in which month can we get an answer on whether they can be made public? I don't think I can be more specific than what I've said. We would look into the cases of these research projects. Mr. Dennis Kwok for the first round. I want to follow up a question about ICAC 013. There's this center to promote corruption prevention, and the expenditure has increased from $600,000 to $2.4 million. There was a seminar incurring $1.8 million of expenditure. Is that the reason why there was such a big increase in the expenditure?
Chairman, yes, a seminar was held in that year. But we incurred other expenditures, including publications, because after the seminar, the articles written by the various speakers were compiled into a publication for distribution to the participants, and the increase was mainly due to the seminar. The increase was from $600,000 to about $2.4 million, and it was mainly due to the seminar. My colleague, Mrs. Aoyang, has just reminded me that apart from the seminar, there were also research projects or items carried out by experts and others. For example, an academic from Hong Kong U was asked to carry out a comparative study on corruption prevention legislation in Hong Kong, and also corruption prevention and anti-corruption legislation in other places. So that study was done, also commissioned by the Center of Anti-Corruption Studies. I still have some time, Chairman. So the expenditure increased from $600,000 to over $2 million. I hope that the ICAC can give me a breakdown. Now, concerning the seminar and the studies carried out by academics, are these the main reasons for the increase in the expenditure? I still have time, Chairman, so I want to ask a question in relation to ICAC 014. The Commissioner's Office and also the Administration Department. And we don't know what criteria are used in allocating resources to the Commissioner's Office and to the Administration Department. So I want to know how the expenditure for the Commissioner's Office and for the Administration Department is decided. Now, for these two, it depends on the allocation by the controlling officer to the various heads. Operations Department 76%, Corruption Prevention Department 7%, and then Community Relations Department 17%. So expenditures are incurred under these various heads or program areas. Ms. Emily Lau, I wish to also follow up on the work of the ICAC. I hope that the Commissioner and the staff of the ICAC understand that the public do have high expectations concerning the standards observed by the ICAC, and when there are cases still under investigation, we do not want to see remarks or comments made by the Commissioner or other staff giving people the impression that a definitive note has already been set on those cases. And I hope that it's inappropriate to say that it's just a matter of personal style and so on and so forth. And Commissioner, in fact, I asked the as for JY, certain cases had dragged on for such a long time. For example, Donald Tsang's case, Timothy Tong's case, and when the DPP retired, we were given the impression that the investigation was nearing completion. So is it that you do not have enough people, you don't have enough money to carry out your investigation? And according to some senior civil servants, the ICAC often takes a long time to investigate cases. And do you have such figures in mind? And according to the civil servants, there was only one exception, the Mak Chai Kwong case. In fact, the investigation was completed within about 2 weeks, but in other cases, investigation time is excessively long. So what is your response? Chairman, now, the duration of investigation depends on the nature of the case concerned. But as I explained earlier, irrespective of the nature of the case, the background of those involved, the principle we observe is to investigate all cases without fear or favor in a just, impartial, and professional manner. And it is unrealistic to set a timetable for completing investigation. This is not what I'm suggesting, but do you keep figures on the average? How long does it take to complete the investigation of one case? And people get the impression that in the Mak Chai Kwong case, you were extremely efficient. And but for other cases, is it that it takes a few years? And that was why I asked whether you didn't have enough money, you didn't have enough people to carry out speedy investigations. And this is not related to lack of manpower or lack of money. If we don't have enough resources, we'll tell LegCo. So on the average, how much time does it take to complete the investigation of one case? And the controlling officer's report, we have a performance pledge. Generally speaking, we need to complete our investigation within 12 months. And in these two cases, you have failed. You haven't lived up to your promise. It depends on the nature and the situation of particular cases. Mr. KK Kwok, I wish to also follow up on ICAC resources. Because of your former commissioner, Mr. Timothy Tong, the public now have less confidence in the ICAC. And as Ms. Emily Lau and other members have pointed out, for cases involving high-ranking officials, celebrities, it seems that the investigation time is excessively long. Is it that you don't have enough resources? ICAC has made this pledge, and that is in relation to cases of public concern, mega cases, or cases involving high-ranking officials, for example, the former CS4. The ICAC has promised to give particular emphasis and attention to such cases because the ICAC's attitude shows its commitment in fighting corruption in a resolute manner in Hong Kong. But then concerning such cases, in particular Donald Tsang's case, the public do not get the impression that the ICAC is working hard and in a fair manner. So we can't help asking whether you do not have enough investigation officers. Is it that you don't have enough frontline officers? Is it that their hands are tied? Is it that they haven't received enough training? Is it that you have too many people in a management level and not too many frontline officers? And then concerning your community relations department, it hasn't set a role model for society, and in fact there was the impression that there was collusion between the CRD and the former commissioner. The CRD is supposed to educate the public on the anti-corruption principle and value. So I would just want to know how you're going to make sure that the CRD can really do its job well in the future. Commissioner. So concerning manpower and other resource within the operations department, I have already told Ms. Emily Lau that basically we have enough resources. It doesn't mean that the more people, the better. It doesn't mean that if we have more investigation officers, then we can accelerate the pace of investigation. So what's the problem? It really depends on the nature of the case. We need to investigate cases in a thorough and professional manner, and I hope that members do accept that we have an established and effective mechanism for monitoring the progress of ICAC work. For example, there is the ORC. There is this committee, and we report the progress of important cases to the ORC once every 6 weeks. We do not drag our feet, nor is there a need for us to drag our feet. We adopt consistent standards in all types of cases. And then concerning the CRD, now in this exercise, we are proposing to set up an internal auditing mechanism. So concerning fund allocation procedures of the various departments under the ICAC, we hope to step up internal auditing and monitoring to make sure that CRD and all other departments comply with all the necessary steps and procedures. And of course, we'll be reporting the progress to the relevant advisory committee. So when will you disclose or announce the results to the public? You mean the investigation? Yes, because investigations are still going on. I can't give members a timetable. Mr. Ho. Dr. Kenneth Chan asked a question about the attendance rates of LegCo members, and Ms. Lau said that it was a sensitive issue. Now, I'm not asking you about the technical details. I'm only asking you about the principle. Does the LegCo need to be accountable to the public? Keeping records represents the minimum that needs to be done in terms of accountability. So how come you don't have records? Now, records can be declassified after some time. And so how come there aren't such records? This is really unacceptable. So concerning the administrative guidelines on record keeping and management, those were issued in 2009, and LegCo is not observing these guidelines, so it can be seen that the guidelines are not adequate. So we need to have an archive law. We need to make sure that bureaus and departments will properly keep all the records. Even the records can't be disclosed at this stage. They may be declassified in the future. We do not want people to hide behind certain pretexts, and we don't want people to get their pay but not doing their job. So can I ask the Director of Administration that your guidelines have failed because at least LegCo is not complying of observing these guidelines. And then we can see that there are two files which have been submitted to the Government Record Service, but then there are some files 70 years old, files dating back to 1946. They are the ICAC files, and they still haven't been handed to the Government Record Service. And in fact, there are only 13 staff members in the Government Record Service. But then, in the past few years, in the police alone, there were already 1.1 million files awaiting screening. So there are only 13 staff members. And so we see records being destroyed, and we don't have enough people to do the screening. At the same time, you're saying that you need to spend $290,000 to buy file or to buy records from the National Archives of the UK. Now, I want to say that Ms. Lau did say that LegCo did keep complete records, and so I don't have anything to add to that. When will those complete records be released to the public? It's no use just keeping the records. Now, all government records will be released after they have been screened in accordance with the relevant guidelines. Ms. Ann Chang, second round. Chairman, I've got a question for the Director of Administration or the Director of Audit. I don't know who can answer this question. I think the executive has followed many good practices all along, but then there are practices which should be reviewed in a timely manner.
Well, when some departments want to build their new buildings, I'm not talking about any particular department, and this is true of many projects. My understanding is that there's no budgeting practices. Well, if I want to build a factory, I would say at most I'm going to spend $50 million or $60 million to build a plant. That's all I want to spend. But for departments, they will not do the same. It's just like ordering dishes. They would talk to the contractors, the architect, I want this, I want that. And after saying that's what I want, of course they would not like to have changes. That's the best thing they want. And at the end, the expenditure is very costly. Should there be any constraints, rules on how to impose some limits on expenditure? Director of Administration, I don't think this comes under my office. Maybe you can do your best, or maybe we can get an answer from the Audit Commission. You know, on the mainland, some local officials build a White House-styled government building, and then the auditor would point out that you shouldn't have done that. It's too costly. It's extravagant. Would the Audit Commission do the same? Well, but of course, they need to get funding approval from this council first. Well, perhaps you can take this question to the Financial Services and the Treasury Bureau. Well, the controlling officers of different departments, whether we're talking about the Commissioner or the Permanent Secretary, are responsible for making sure that government expenditure is expended appropriately. All government public projects will have to be conducted in a way that is complying with cost effectiveness and value for money requirements. All departments have to ensure this. Of course, the Audit Commission also plays a role in ensuring this. So there is value for money audit for the expenditure. That's very good. I hope the Audit Commission will take a good look at these projects from time to time. Mr. Dennis Kwok, second round. I asked about why in a year the expenditure of the research center in the ICAC went up by so much. And there was a meeting attended by Simon Pei in Malaysia. He brought along the 9 officers. Only $99,000 was spent, and in another conference in the U.S., only an expenditure of $300,000 was incurred. But Mr. Timothy Tong, on another occasion, brought along 30-odd officers. And there was a anti-corruption conference in Morocco. Mr. Tong took 30 officers to the conference. So comparatively speaking, Mr. Simon Pei has been exercising a lot of self-constraint. So why is it that the former commissioner was not subject to any monitoring, and he could bring along 30 odd officers to a conference without the need to get any approval, and he alone could make the decision? How can we make sure that in the future, how many people should be going to such conferences with the commissioner? Would there be better internal regulation, Commissioner? I think from Mr. Simon Pei, our commissioner, did explain that starting from last year, every items of expenditure on overseas visits and the giving of souvenirs and gifts will be subject to an internal system, and every officer in the ICAC has been made aware of such rules. Mr. Kwok Ka-Kay, second round. A question about CE. Is non-accountable expenditure 13-14, 799,800, and next year, $730,000. Many people are concerned about expenses incurred by the CE's office, and some of the expenses are not accountable in nature. For these non-accountable entertainment expenses, so in which areas was the money spent? And we also concerned about the people the CE met on some of these occasions. We were concerned about a meeting at a Siu Tou Yun restaurant before the CE election. And second, on the overall expenditure incurred by the CE office, a large amount is spent on the Fanning resort. According to government information, the Fanning villa is seldom used. So why do we still keep this villa? It's unlike decades ago. The CE would take leave and he would visit other places. There's no need to maintain this CE's villa in Fanning by the government. So the land should be turned for other public, should be converted to other public purposes, or perhaps the public should be involved in deciding the fate of this CE's villa in the future. Ms. Lau. As for non-accountable entertainment expenses, first, this is nothing new. And even before the reunification, it was already there. And it was not specific to the CE. Apart from the CE, our Chief Justice and our the three senior directors of Bureau are all entitled to this. The thinking behind this is that these senior officials live in government-provided residences, and they may need to entertain guests in these official residences, and there may be public publicly funded entertainment activities related to their public duties. So they have to do this in their residences. And since we are using the same team of government employees to provide the service, so it's non-accountable in nature. And over the years, we came here to the SIG members' endorsement, and it was always granted. 2 minutes for the third round. Well, you moved the goalpost after I have started to talk. Please be flexible. Yes, because this session would end at 1:40 p.m. I have a question for the Ombudsman. Welcome to our meeting, Ms. Connie Lau, and I have another question for Mr. David Sun. I think members of the public generally appreciate the work of the Ombudsman and the Audit Commission, especially those cases conducted by your officers and direct investigations that you took the initiative to conduct. Well, the public would very much like to know where you stand, whether you're on the side of the public or on the side of the administration. We have actually asked the Ombudsman previously whether more resources would be needed to conduct more direct investigation, and we were told that they could cope with their resources. So I would like to take this opportunity to ask the Audit Commission and the Ombudsman as regards whether they have got the sufficient resources to monitor the work of the administration on behalf of the public. Well, thank you for your questions. We all know that in the Ombudsman's office, we conduct a direct investigation. We attach importance to such investigations in cases whereby public interest is at stake. We spend no effort in carrying out our investigations in a fair manner. Even though there may be no complainant coming forward to lodge a complaint, on average, we carried out 6 direct investigations every year. Apart from direct investigations that we conduct on our own initiative, which are bigger in scope, we also review cases, and we also provide recommendations to government departments. We can flexibly redeploy our manpower so as to better respond to public aspirations. Can we get some response from the Director of Audit? Thank you, Mr. Chen, or thank you, Dr. Chen, for your question. We have been reviewing our deployment of resources regularly. This year, with the approval of the Finance Committee, we have increased the establishment by 4 posts of auditors. We would like to conduct more compliance audits. So as to respond to the aspirations of the public and of the PAC of this council. Ms. Emily Lau, 3rd round. I'd like to welcome Ms. Connie Lau for her attendance in this council's meeting as the Ombudsman. I have a question about the Director of Audit. There were many questions just then about how money was spent by government officials on entertainment, dining with guests, and overseas visits. We count on you to conduct detailed studies and investigations because government officials fear such audits. And some people accuse Mr. Timothy Tom for setting a bad example. And it's been suggested by some that you should not just look at how discipline services are spending money. Of course, it's up to you to choose which cases to proceed. And it's not possible to conduct each and every case that has to be conducted, has to be investigated. How do you decide your priorities? Thank you. Chairman and Ms. Lau, you are right. The administration is a big organization. The main control on expenditure is the job of the controlling officer. That's why you have controlling officers' reports. And annually, the expenditure of the different departments is also subject to the oversight of the Finance Committee, and there are also legal provisions governing the way money is spent in departments. Of course, we also conduct random checks, and from time to time we can identify room for improvement. In that case, we would discuss with the FST Bureau on how to make improvements, or how guidelines can be revised, or certain rules can be tightened up. Mr. Ho, third round. I want to follow up on the replies provided by Mr. Alice Lau and the administration wing. In question CEO 018 raised by Mr. Kwok, it said that we have no statistics on the attendance of Executive Council members since we do not compile any such statistics. But in a reply just given, you said that there were such information on the statistics. But what are you actually doing? Since you said you do not compile any such statistics, you are playing a game with words. Are you trying to hide something from us? Or are you saying that I have the information, but I just not going to compile the statistics for members?
How come you told us that in fact there were figures only when we asked follow-up question? And then may I ask a question about CEO 017? Number of times that the CE called on and received officers of the liaison office, and the answer reads, we have not compiled any statistics on contacts with individual organizations. So can I ask you once again, yes or no? And does the permanent secretary or the secretary of the CEO keep a diary of the social engagements of the CE? So do you have the statistics, or have you compiled the statistics, and then are you willing to share the information with members? And then CEO 016, the number of mainland officials or members of mainland organizations received by the incumbent CE, and again, they say we have not compiled statistics on the number of visitors received, their post titles, and the organizations they represented. Is it that in fact you do have records? Is it that the secretary to the CE has such information, but it is just that you don't want to compile the statistics? Is that correct, Ms. Lau? Yes, thank you, Chairman, and I thank Ms. Ho for her question. I first of all need to clarify that we are not trying to play with words. And concerning LegCo, as I said in my first reply, the LegCo has minutes of meetings, and for each item of discussion, there are records concerning which members were present and which members were present and did not cast their votes, and so on and so forth. But now, concerning statistics, now that's why I'm saying you're playing with words. You said no statistics, but now we're asking you, we're not asking you about the statistics. Nobody asked you about statistics. We just want you to give us the information. How come you are trying to circumvent this council? We can't give you a figure without doing the counting. I haven't asked you to do the counting. You just list all the information. And I think it's really unacceptable that you are trying to prevent this council from monitoring, exercising its monitoring functions effectively. Ms. Emily Lau, I agree with Ms. Ho. How come that they don't have the attendance rates of LegCo members? Now, in fact, for LegCo meetings, do you know the attendance of members is on our website? So I want Ms. Lau to put on the LegCo's website the attendance of the various ExCo members? If you can't do it, explain why. And then I want to ask our SG one question. How do you assess the morale of our secretariat staff? As a LegCo Commission member, I know that our staff are working very hard, but at the same time, I know that the workload of our secretariat is ever increasing. Now, this is a small council, but we are responsible for monitoring the work of so many government departments and bureaus. So can I ask the SG whether there are enough resources for our secretariat staff to properly discharge their duties and do their job well? Yes, thank you, Chairman. I thank Ms. Emily Lau for being so concerned about the morale of the secretariat staff. It's undeniable that the working hours of the council have become longer. The issues dealt with by the council has become more complex, but then we have been doing our best to try to support members' work, and we do understand that members also support our work. Now, concerning our budgets, our estimates, they have always been supported by the LegCo Commission, so thank you very much. And this year, with the LegCo Commission's support, we tried to secure more resources from the administration, and we were highly successful in this regard. As Ms. Lau is aware, we're going to have new resources, and we believe such new resources will help our colleagues cope with their work, which is getting more and more complex and sophisticated, and so we should be able to meet our future challenges. SG, have you received complaints from secretariat staff that their workload is very heavy and that they can't cope? SG, well, I've all along listened to colleagues' views about their work, and I can say that I recently haven't received comments that colleagues can't really cope with their work. All right, so that's the end of this session. We'll